You're listening to Strange by Nature, your guide to the strange, weird, unbelievable, and improbable wonders of the natural world.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I am Kirk Mona, and I am joined today by Rachel Ginza and Victoria Thompson. We are all professional naturalists who together have scoured the world for weird and wonderful wonders just to please your mammalian brain's desire for novelty. Isn't that nice? Let's do this.
Alrighty, everyone. Welcome back. I get to start us off this week, which is super exciting. So, the whole premise of this show is that we don't tell each other what topics we're going to be bringing to the table before we record. It's the whole premise.
Absolutely.
And it's still the premise of the show, but Kirk let slip that his topic this week is apparently exceedingly gross. That's all I know.
It's pretty cringy. Yep.
Beautiful. So I decided to be nice and choose what I consider something kind of beautiful as a topic.
Oh, good. That will be a nice foil to what I'm bringing.
Exactly.
To the table, which is awful.
So that being
We should
said,
listen in opposite order to have like yours is a palate cleanser or something. Maybe.
I thought about that. I
That's
wasn't
just not
sure
how we
which
roll
one,
on this show.
No,
starting.
no, we're gonna end on.
It's fine. We're
We're
gonna
gonna
end on the
on
gross.
a note to be sure. Yep.
Perfect.
Perfect.
So that being said, of course, me being me, we are headed right into the Great Blue Sea. Any of the
Of course,
oceans, any
yep.
of the seas that you want to be in, that's fine. This particularly beautiful creature, it can be found just about anywhere in the salty oceans or seas, including like polar regions. They've been spotted underneath the sea ice, all the way up to, they've been spotted in tropical seas as well, which is pretty,
Yeah.
Quite
pretty
a range.
amazing.
That is a
and
very
big, wide range, especially for the type of creature that this is.
Okay.
So in these open blue waters, depending on the species, because the group of species, lives a free swimming sea slug. It's a group.
Okay.
It's a group of it's a clade or subclade of sea slugs that range from anywhere from about 2,000 feet deep or 600 meters all the way to the surface of the ocean. It's where they kind of hang out.
Okay. Again, quite a range. Yeah.
Yeah, again. Well, there's multiple like species within this group too.
I got okay. Yeah. So they all have the different sort of spot they're going to be. Makes what made more sense.
So these particular sea slugs are gorgeous. Mostly in my opinion, but they have been like said to be. They look really pretty.
You're not the only one who thinks this.
I'm not the only one who thinks this. They have a transparent and gelatinous body, so you can see their organs, which are generally like an orange or pink kind of color, with two fins off to either side. Well, I say fins. They're parapodia,
Okay.
which act like flapping wings in the water. Their head is rounded with two little protrusions that are kind of similar to antenna, but much shorter. So think of a slug. That's generally what it looks like, and then it has like these transparent wings.
A slug, but like
It's
a
like a
lot more appealing.
Yeah.
Or like a slug from another planet.
Yeah. So this particular
cool.
creature is actually called the sea angel.
Sea angel. Oh my.
And it is very reminiscent of like angels that you would put on top of a Christmas tree.
I'm looking at a photo right now, and it's
Oh wow.
very different from the sea slugs that I'm familiar with.
Right?
Yeah.
This is
I wouldn't have guessed a
wild
slug
looking.
Yeah.
necessarily.
It to sort of try to paint someone of the picture. It almost looks a little bit like an aquatic hummingbird.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good one.
which is like almost like the wings are sort of like fast moving kind
with
of.
cat
I don't think they actually
ears.
move fast, but
Yeah.
It's like a little like owly kind of looking. I'm at a bit of a loss for describing this properly because it just is. They're kind of translucent.
Mm-hmm.
And
you can pretty much see mostly
looking.
through it. Yeah. And like those parapodia are actually really gentle, and it is how they get around. They're not fast by any means.
No, I would not assume so.
They are faster than their prey, which we'll talk about.
Okay.
They are rather small, as you could maybe imagine. The largest of the species in this group of the sea angels is 5 centimeters in length.
Oh, bitty.
Oh my.
So real
bitty.
tiny. And generally they actually have a lifespan of about 2 years, which is pretty cool.
Okay. That's not too bad for something so small.
Exactly. They actually really remind me, see if you all remember this. They remind me of a similar animal I talked about, the sea butterfly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was a long while ago, which is really funny because majority of the sea angels actually predate on the sea butterfly.
Oh.
Oh my.
And
right.
the sea butterfly is actually one of its closest living relatives.
Oh. Just keeping it all in the family.
Very nice. Yeah.
So they're really beautiful.
It's like having a gorilla steak or something. That's horrible.
Pretty much. Yeah. So what they'll do when they catch and detect a sea butterfly, which are also rather small. And again, they aren't fast, but they are faster than sea butterflies while they swim. I think one source said that they are 0.22 miles per hour is their speed in water.
Oh my.
0.22.
Okay.
0.22. So what happens is when they detect them with their like antenna of sorts from the head, they actually extend tentacles from their head, kind of like fingers of sorts, to grab a hold of the sea butterfly. They extend from their head, use some hook appendages, which is actually modified radula called buccal cones. And they're able to use those to pull the sea butterfly out of their shell and into their mouth and stomach.
Oh.
Yeah,
And
I'm again looking at a photo of that right now. It's very much like
so different.
Stranger Things, Demogorgon, like sort of tentacle mouth thing opening up and this pretty little thing just like
Exactly.
That's kind of terrifying.
What was really cool to find out for this it can take them anywhere from 2 minutes to take the entire sea butterfly out to 45 minutes. So it takes a big varied time, which is wild.
What a way to go.
Right? Oh, you're just being slowly sucked into the mouth of your cousin.
Oof.
Gross.
That's, yeah. Oh my God, what a quote.
I mean, I did say that this was a nice one. It's kind of nice.
Let's just move on. I don't
really
even
pretty. But that's what I have for you both this week.
Oh my God, that's one of the worst things I've ever heard said on the show. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I have for you both this week. Just something nice.
Oh, that was it.
And sweet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
On that note.
That's pretty much it. We're gonna end on that note.
That's probably for the best.
My sources.
Wow.
My sources this week were Wikipedia, Monterey Bay Aquarium, Ocean Conservancy, and the Smithsonian had a great article about the sea angels, which was awesome.
Awesome. Check out our Instagram. Rachel will be putting pictures of those up.
Oh yeah, you have to see them.
They're up there already. If you're hearing this, they're up there.
Yeah. All right. We're going to take a quick break. And when we return, it'll be Victoria.
Strange by Nature podcast is brought to you by listeners like you who have joined the Society of Strange, our membership group on over at patreon.com/strangebynature. Society of Strange members can join at one of 3 different membership levels and help support the show and also get some fun stuff like water bottle stickers or access to super secret content. So a thank you to those who have joined already to help make this podcast possible. If you haven't joined yet, we'll see you soon over at the Society of Strange at patreon.com/strangebynature. See you soon.
Hey, we're back. My topic is it's quite a journey. And so I'm going to start in 1993 when the well-known neurologist and author Oliver Sacks got a call from an acquaintance who was another neurologist named John Steele. And John wanted to get Oliver's opinion on his patients. John had been living and working for the last dozen years or so on the Pacific island of Guam because the native Chamorro people were uniquely affected by a neurodegenerative disease there called Liddico-Bodig. That was the Chamorro name for the disease was.
Okay.
Liddico-Bodig. And it had 2 major ways it could appear. So Liddico was similar to ALS, like Lou Gehrig's disease, where basically you become progressively paralyzed, but your brain remains completely fine until the end. Awful way to go.
Horrifying.
Yeah. And Bodig, which basically resembled Parkinson's disease, where patients would, their movements would become stuck. And often the Bodig patients also would often suffer from a dementia resembling Alzheimer's disease. Pretty awful,
horrifying
ways to go. And interestingly, the brains of Liddico-Bodig patients, when looked at under a microscope, had damage that was pretty similar to the damage seen in Alzheimer's brains.
Okay.
So John Steele had been treating these patients for a long time, but what exactly was going on with them was a big mystery and had been for a while. There's written evidence of this disease going back to early 20th century, but it first really came to the notice of Western science after World War II. And at the height of the epidemic of this disease on Guam between about 1945 and 1956, it was the leading cause of death in adults there.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is something that's
intense.
Pretty widespread then.
Yeah.
Yes. So it has been the focus of a lot of interest because the diseases it resembles are some of the most feared and intractable diseases
absolutely
in Western societies as well. And the thought was perhaps understanding Liddico-Bodig might help us understand what causes ALS, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's, which we do not know.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So at first, there was a focus on genetics, but while the disease did seem to strike many members of the same family, it did not follow any known inheritance pattern.
Okay.
Also, no one born after about 1960 seemed to be getting the disease.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Huh.
Okay.
So the next thought was maybe it might be related to an infectious disease. Now, there were some signs, though, that pointed away from an infectious cause. For one thing, the disease seemed to affect only Chamorro people. And even Chamorro people who had moved to the mainland United States could then be struck down 10, 20, 30 years after they had emigrated.
Okay.
Really?
So it's not an environmental cause either.
Well,
some things can lay dormant for a long time.
Yeah, some things can lay dormant for a long time. So can some viruses, but non-Chamorro people on Guam were not affected unless they had adopted Chamorro culture. So just being on Guam wasn't enough to get you the disease. But in either case, there seemed to be some kind of delayed onset. So like people like would marry into a Chamorro family and then, 25 years later come down with the disease sometimes.
Gotcha.
So some environmental cause did seem most likely. And one area of focus was the Chamorro diet, since you're going to be looking at something that affects...
That was the first thing I was thinking of.
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So one of their staples was a flour made from the seeds of plants called cycads. And cycads are a very ancient kind of plant. They resemble palm trees. They have very stiff kind of pointy fronds, but they're not actually related to palms. They date back to before flowering plants existed. They're gymnosperms. So you may have actually seen some grown as ornamental plants. They're called sago palms often. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty, I've seen them around, especially for like indoor plant type stores and things like that.
Yes, definitely.
They're very, very cool.
They are very cool. My grandparents, when I used to visit them in Austin, Texas, growing up, had a sago palm in their backyard in a pot. But Guam, actually, they make up a pretty unusually large percent of the native tree species. I don't know if you would say they dominate the flora there, but there are a lot of cycads.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And during World War II, Guam was occupied by the Japanese. And under those difficult circumstances, cycad flour became an even larger part of the diet because farming was more difficult and various other related reasons, I'm sure you can imagine. Mm-hmm. The problem is cycads are quite toxic.
Ew.
Yeah.
Not great.
No. They have a couple different toxins, but if the seeds are extensively processed, many different changes of water and so forth, they can be made safe to eat. But, one of the toxins has acute effects mostly on the liver, but one of the other toxins is an amino acid called BMAA, which stands for something I'm not going to read to you. It did seem to have some effects on the nervous system, and some animal experiments were done in the 1960s, but none of them resulted in the animals getting anything like Lytico-Bodig disease. So the cycad theory was pretty much dropped for a while.
Okay.
Then in the 1980s, there was another experimenter, and he fed extra large doses of BMAA to monkeys, and he was actually able to reproduce some kind of similar neurological symptoms. Over a short time frame. And this caused a lot of excitement in the various researchers, but it turned out that the doses that the monkeys were being fed corresponded with consuming just like unrealistically enormous amounts of cycad flour.
Okay, yeah.
And when samples of the flour were tested, they actually contained relatively low amounts of this BMAA toxin.
Okay.
And, Oliver Sacks's book, excellent book from 1996 called Island of the Colorblind, where I'm getting most of this information from. He goes over all these hypotheses and more besides that I don't have time to mention here. And he basically concludes that Chamorros likely have some underlying genetic susceptibility. They went through a pretty severe genetic bottleneck, unfortunately, due to basically a genocide in the late 17th century, I think it was. And that probably one or the other of the cycad toxins may be somehow to blame for this disease. But at the end of the book, the mystery, essentially remains unsolved.
Whoa,
but our story is not over.
Good.
Ha-ha.
I like
Oliver,
having it solved.
Well, we'll see.
Okay.
Oliver did not forget about Lytico-Bodig disease after leaving Guam and writing his book. He kept thinking about it, and he actually wound up collaborating with an ethnobotanist named Paul Allen Cox. So ethnobotanists, they study basically how different societies use plants, right?
Right.
And they together came up with an intriguing hypothesis in 2002, which they published in a scientific journal. And the key to this hypothesis came from a different part of the Chamorro diet. Flying foxes. Flying foxes, they are giant fruit bats. And they
huge.
resemble a fox, facially at least. And traditionally, they were a very prized delicacy that were served on special occasions, boiled whole in coconut milk.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
Yeah. See, I've seen a picture of this dish, and it is bad in some coconut milk.
Okay.
You know, tastes very.
Yeah. Hey, some people like pineapple. What
That's
can I
right.
say?
Exactly.
Some people like pineapple.
People eat weird stuff.
Yeah.
Well, in the 20th century, there was an increasing availability of guns on Guam, and there was also a shift to a more capitalistic culture, along with American colonization and so forth. And this led to a huge increase in the hunting and eating of flying foxes from what the levels had previously been. And actually, this big increase in hunting, along with the invasive brown tree snake, which I talked about in another episode, eventually led the population of flying foxes on Guam to crash in the mid-20th century. But for the few decades before this, Chamorros ate more flying foxes more frequently than ever before. And what Oliver and Paul Allen Cox, the ethnobotanist, figured out was that flying foxes eat cycad seeds. And
the seeds?
Yeah, BMAA is a fat-soluble compound, so it can bioaccumulate in the bat's flesh.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
And yeah.
Okay.
You're getting like a highly concentrated dose there.
So when people were eating the bats, they were getting basically mega doses of BMAA, maybe consistent with what that experimenter was doing, more than could ever be consumed by eating cycad flour.
Yep.
So
I did not expect the story to go in all these directions.
Yeah.
And if they eat multiple of the flying foxes and everything, that bioaccumulates in us as well as humans.
Sure.
So.
Well, so mystery solved. Maybe,
yeah.
The source of the BMAA in cycads is actually symbiotic cyanobacteria that live in the roots.
What?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And cyanobacteria of all kinds actually make BMAA, and they live in all kinds of places on Earth. For example, they're responsible for the toxic algae blooms that may come to a lake near you this summer.
Uh-huh.
So lots of people are exposed to BMAA. So for a while...
I try not to eat the algae in the pond, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Not my favorite snack.
No. A little different than your little seaweed, roasted seaweed snacks.
Right.
No.
Or the spirulina that I talked about, yeah.
Or the spirulina. Well, Paul Allen Cox has done a lot of subsequent research to try to see if BMAA exposure can be linked to Alzheimer's disease, just regular old Alzheimer's disease.
Wow.
There was, a couple pathology type experiments where some evidence of BMAA was found in the brains of Alzheimer's patients who had died. But, later studies haven't had as much success reproducing the result. And so, basically there is no better explanation now for lytic disease on Guam, but it's an ongoing area of study and significant debate in the Alzheimer's and neurodegenerative disease research community.
Wow. Very amazing.
Yeah.
I love science.
I love all the amazing interconnecting pieces in this story.
Oh, yeah. It was
right.
wild to go from one place to another. It's like, okay, sure. Whoa.
But that's sometimes where the science road takes you.
Yeah.
Where the evidence leads.
Oliver Sacks was an amazing writer. He told this story, far better than I ever could, at least the first part of it. So I definitely encourage you to go check out that book and any of his other books. He sadly died in 2015, but they're still great reads. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, we're going to take a little break and then brace yourselves for whatever Kirk has in store for us today.
It's a doozy. Okay, I want you to imagine that you are traveling to Chad or South Sudan, maybe Mali or Ethiopia, generally that region of Africa. Water is a hot commodity in much of these countries, being as they are either partially in or at least closely adjacent to the Sahara Desert.
Yes.
Yep.
The area that you are visiting, though, luckily does have access to water, and that's a good thing because you are really hot, and a local villager offers you a glass of water, and you take a nice, cool drink. Now, many of our listeners have likely traveled to places other than their homes and know that drinking the water from places that don't have good water hygiene or purification can bring challenges to your intestines, right?
I think I might know where you're going with this one.
Okay.
Excellent. Usually those challenges are of the diarrheal variety, but sometimes things can get worse.
Oh, good.
Much worse. You see, in remote parts of these countries, if you take water from a pond to drink, you may be ingesting copepods.
Oh, good.
So if you looked through a microscope at microscopic pond critters, like when you were in like high school or middle school or something like that, you likely looked at copepods. They're very common around the world. They're a really easy thing to see through microscopes, or even with a magnifying glass, you can see some of the larger ones. So there's little critters swimming around in the water.
Little itty bitty crustaceans.
Yeah,
They're fun to watch.
And so they're very cool. They're very cool. And the copepods that you just ingested, though, are not what you need to worry about. They're pretty much quickly going to die in the environment of your, acid-filled stomach, right? So,
right.
Whew, we're all good, right? Everything's okay?
No, because apparently not.
No, it's not. You see, the real problem here is that the copepods are themselves infected with a parasite.
There it is.
They're carrying the larva from the Guinea worm.
Yes, I knew you were going to go there.
Oh, no.
Oh,
no.
the Guinea worm.
Is this because of Jimmy Carter? Is that why you chose this topic?
No. This is something I've been meaning to talk about for a really long time. Not
like we've not had
with Jimmy.
Although
we can talk. He is someone who's been championing trying to get rid of this issue of the Guinea worm. So we're going to get to like what is a Guinea worm and what's the big deal. Well, let me just run through the life cycle of the Guinea worm for you. Are we sitting comfortably?
We haven't had a good parasite in a while.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm ready.
This is a doozy. So the Guinea worm larvae start out in stagnant pools of water and they infect copepods. They are, of course, very small to be able to do this because copepods themselves are very microscopic and small.
Yeah.
So the copepods are eventually consumed by humans where they die in your stomach. And when the copepods die, the larvae are released. Now, they don't die in your stomach acid. They actually penetrate the walls of your stomach and intestines, and they go on a journey inside your body. They will eventually infect you and set up shop in the connective tissues of your abdomen and begin to, feed and live there.
Mm-hmm.
So
we need those connective tissues. I like my connective tissues where they are.
Well, good news, you're going to keep them. Because to be clear, you have no idea this is happening. You feel completely fine. They are very, very tiny. You don't feel a thing. But once they've set up shop, the Guinea worms do what comes naturally. They start to mate inside your body. So now you got that going on, which is just lovely. The males die off, having done their job. But the tiny little female worms now begin the next phase of their life. It is time to grow. And boy, howdy, do they ever. Over the course of a year, with no outward appearance that anything is happening inside of you, Victoria knows where I'm going with this. They start to grow and grow and grow, and they can eventually reach a length of 3 feet long.
No,
that's 1 meter.
Are about 1 meter, and they are the width of like a piece of cooked spaghetti. And I do have to pause. Yeah. I do have to pause here and point out that of all the kinds of pasta in the world, I absolutely cannot stand spaghetti. It's just the
really?
worst. I find it. First of all, I find it hard to eat because I have an overbite, so it's very difficult for me to eat spaghetti. But it's just always reminded me of like a bowl of worms since I was a little kid. And now that you have,
I suppose,
this image of this 3-foot long spaghetti guinea worm inside your abdomen, it makes me like spaghetti even less.
I
So,
like spaghetti.
moving on.
Kirk.
Anyways, a little
Yeah, me
inside.
too.
Well, you might not know a little bit. So we're gonna move on. We're very unfortunately not done. The life cycle must continue for these worms, and unfortunately for the female, she's inside your body, which is generally not a place she can infect copepods, right?
Right. Is there more than one in your body at a time, or is there just one?
The cases I was seeing, what I was talking about, like one. I would imagine you could have more than one.
You could have more than one.
time.
I think often it's one, but you can have more than one.
Okay.
Yeah. So this takes time. So again, this is more than a year after you drank that water, and she's going to start moving through your body. And generally they head for the lower legs. So like your legs, your ankles, your feet. But they can also go to other parts of the body and just sort of get mixed up. But generally they're going down to your feet. And this is when you finally notice something strange is going on, because you could actually see this like worm under your skin.
No.
First you get a fever. Then you're going to notice swelling and soreness in the spot where the worm is. And eventually a painful burning blister forms on the skin. And this horrible burning sensation lasts for approximately 24 to 48 hours. So if you think about this, what do you do if you have a hot burning blister on your feet or legs? You want to cool it off, right? So people with these blisters are naturally drawn to cool water to soothe their pain. And when exposed to water, the worm will release a milky white liquid into the water, which is millions and millions of guinea worm larvae just shooting out into the water from your body. And they are now food for the copepods that live in that pond, who will eat them and complete the life cycle. Mm-hmm. Now, you may be tempted to think that because the life cycle is complete, my story is complete, but oh no.
You still got a worm.
You still have a worm in you. Yeah.
Yep, you do.
So very unfortunately, the story goes on because there's still, like I said, a 3-foot worm in your leg, and it must come out. If you pull on it too hard, you will break it and you will kill it. And you now have a 3-foot long dead rotting worm in your body, and you're going to get an infection. So you can't do that. Now you do have to pull it out, but very carefully and unfortunately very slowly. Reports are that it is extremely painful to remove the worms, and you can only remove a few centimeters each day.
Each day?
So,
Yeah.
So if you're extremely lucky, maybe you have a small worm, you might be able to get it out in a couple days with a lot of pain. But for most people, it takes weeks.
Yeah, if it's a 3-foot, and then you're walking around with a worm kind of sticking out.
Stick. Usually they wrap it around a stick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You get a stick and kind of wrap it around there, and each day to sort of wrap it, wrap another inch around. The next day, wrap another inch around, and kind of painfully pull it out an inch, wrap it around the stick. And so you have this stick just sort of like dangling on the side of your leg or your foot as you are spending time. And while you're doing this, you're in a lot of pain. You're unable to go to school. You're unable to go to work. You're not being able to provide for your family. It is a very serious, very problem. It can be debilitating. It can actually cause like scar tissues in your joints and make your joints not function anymore. It is very horrible. I will point out, Victoria mentioned the thing about wrapping it around a stick. There are photographs of this online if you care to look. Maybe don't look if you're having spaghetti tonight. But,
I love this for our Instagram.
Yeah, so meanwhile, as you're spending weeks winding up the worm, you have this hole in the side of your body, and secondary infections are very common. Like I said, joint damage is very common. Guinea worm disease, which is what this infection is called, is quite simply horrifying, painful, and debilitating. It tends to occur in places without access to clean water, And these same places often don't have access to good medical care, which of course complicates things. And to be clear, there is no drug to treat the infection, and there is no vaccine to prevent it. So the best thing to do is just not to get it. The only way to stop the spread is, one, to keep people out of the water if they do have it, so they don't spread it to other people. Because if that worm just dies, then it's not going to continue the life cycle on. And then also you can treat water supplies and try to kill off copepods and things living in the water, and that's actually quite effective.
Even filtering the water with a fine enough filter.
Sure.
Will do it.
Sure. Yeah. So basically having clean water, who would have guessed, is like a super, super important thing. And as you mentioned, Victoria, this is something Jimmy Carter was working on. A lot of people working on trying to actually eradicate this disease off the face of the earth. And they are having quite a lot of success. In 2021, which is the last year I could get statistics for, there were only 15 cases reported in the whole world.
And that's down from like hundreds of thousands in the 90s, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's a huge drop off.
Wild. Now, that's awesome.
The trouble is, though, we've gotten so good at keeping it from getting humans sick, but if we really want to wipe it out, we need to not have it be circulating at all. Dogs and cats can also get guinea worm.
I think like baboons or something I read.
Probably some other animals too. Yeah. In 2021, there was 790 reported cases in dogs in Chad alone.
Oh, wow.
And that was just the reported cases. How many dogs had it where like no one reported it, right? So we need to control it, not because, those dogs get in the water, then we're going to get it. So they do need to try to really eliminate it, but they do feel like they are getting closer and closer with some hard work and a little bit of luck. We may actually be close to making guinea worms a wild and horrifying thing from the past that humans of the future will never need to worry about again, which is pretty amazing. So raise a glass of clean water to the hardworking people working every day to bring that clean water to our collective tables. They are doing amazing, amazing work. I really only used one source this week for my story since it was so good. It was the good old Centers for Disease Control. They have a really nice write-up on guinea worm disease on their website, but there's a lot of information out there. Truly one of the stranger, more horrifying things out there in nature. It's been a while since we did a good parasite episode, so I thought we needed to throw that out there.
It's been a bit.
There's more on my list. Don't worry.
There's always more on all of our lists.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, hey, I want to mention something special here at the end of the show. This is episode 108. This is the end of the season. This is
end of year
the end
2.
Of the year, really.
End of year 2.
End of year 2. We've had a tremendous number of new listeners who've joined us in this last quarter of the year. Thank you so much for being with us. You can check out our website, strangebynaturepodcast.com. You can find us on Patreon if you want to join the Society of Strange, which is sort of our patron group that does some extra fun stuff. But mostly, we're just really happy you're here. Thanks for spreading the word and writing those 5-star reviews on like Apple Podcasts and Podchaser and all those places that people find it. The more people that find it and join our weird, strange family, the more we grow and the more fun we have. So thank you for being here. As we wrap up next week's show. Next week's show is going to be super special. For those of you who have not been around quite as long, the way we sort of kick off a new season is having on professional naturalist Brett W. Sieberer, who's a common friend of the show, and he takes over the show. So he will be handing control over to him. We don't really ever know exactly what he has planned. Usually he is quizzing us. Maybe we're going to play a round of Eat, Ride, Jacket, which is a bizarre game he invented for our start of season 2 or year 2. We don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be a wild ride.
He's full of shenanigans, that man.
Yeah. He's a wild card.
I sure hope next week is no one's first episode or they're going to be terribly confused. But if you've been along for the ride, you should enjoy it. But we'll let you guys all go. Thanks so much. I suppose if some of you have are behind, you could just download that, go right into that episode 109. Here it comes, right?
Yeah.
Everybody have a great evening, and we'll be seeing you real soon.
Or morning, whenever you're listening to this.
Or morning, yeah. Or middle of the night, you have insomnia. That's cool too. You want to learn about guinea worms in the middle of the night and
awful and never sleep
while
again.
You're eating a bowl of spaghetti in your bed. Yeah.
Awful.
All right.
Bye, guys.
On that note,
thanks
everybody
everyone
have
for
a
listening.
great day.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for listening to today's show. Be sure to subscribe. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and we love sharing this strange world with all of our listeners. If you would be so kind as to leave us a 5-star review, that would be great. It lets other lovers of the strange discover the show. You can reach out to us on social media by searching for Strange by Nature Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can send us an email as well. Our address is contact@strangebynaturepodcast.com. If you want more information about the show, you can also check out our website, which is strangebynaturepodcast.com. Until next week, get outside, stay curious, and embrace the strange.